Bald thief, you failed. Obstacle. That was.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is OurMusicBox and today I want to show you guys a new Amara build using one of the new DLC weapons. Now, since I made a build with all the other characters in the game using something new from the DLC, I wanted to do one with Amara as well, but I didn't think her new class mod was that good for any builds I was trying to make with it, so I decided to do it with one of the new weapons, and this build is a lot stronger than I thought it'd be, and this weapon is much stronger than I thought it'd be. So let's go into the talents. So the talents in this build are going to be pretty similar to other builds I've done, pretty much the exact same talent layout as other builds, because we are using the Spiritual Driver class mod, so that does dictate quite a bit of our talent choices. So first we're going on the Brawl, because we need mindfulness for this class mod, 5 in Root to Rise for some max HP, 3 into Personal Space for some damage increase if you're close to the target, then 1 into Clarity and 1 into Helping Hand, just for some regen and damage reduction, and then Mindfulness for the movement speed increase to get that pretty big damage increase from Spiritual Driver. So next for the main skill tree is Fist of Elements, and we're going into this just mainly because this has a lot of the best damage increases, especially for elemental damage. Anima, increased status effect damage and duration. Tempest, increased elemental damage extra for shock. Then 5 in a Wildfire. Now this is to go lower in the tree. You don't really want to be using Infusion with the Spiritual Driver because it also, after you use an action skill, it applies whatever action skill element you're using to yourself. So you want to be using an elemental projector with this, and you don't want to have Infusion to split up that damage. You want whatever is the damage or the main element you're using for the weapon currently, you want that to be your action skill element to get the full damage increase. Then we're using Dread if we actually grasp enemies to give us increased gun damage. Then we're using Deep Well for increased magazine size with elemental weapons. 3 into Indiscriminate, which basically just can ricochet bullets around, or lasers with the weapon we're using. 5 into Sustainment for our main survivability with tons of lifesteal. Then Forcible Expression, which just deals bonus elemental damage based on our action skill elements, so just some extra damage. Rest of the points are in Mythical Assault. 3 into Fast Hands just for reload speed mainly. 1 into Do Harm and Violent Tapestry just to have those rush stacks stacking up. Then 3 into Transcend increases critical hit damage, is mainly what we're using it for after activating an action skill, which is a pretty good damage increase. Then 1 for Restless for our action skill cooldown, just into our last talent. And the abilities we're going to be using, mainly since we want to keep Spiritual Driver active all the time and keep our action skill element on us all the time, we want a Phase Grasp ability so we can just Phase Grasp the ground and not hit anything unless we really need to. And we're using Ties of Bind because if we do end up hitting enemies and want to use on enemies, this is going to be the best one for groups of enemies. Our action skill elements with this build, we can have any of the 3, Shock, Corrosive, or Fire, so just switch to whichever element you're currently using on your weapon. And the action skill element, you can either use Allure, or you can use Soul Sap, whichever one, not going to be a really big deal. Allure, probably going to be better for groups of enemies if you actually are using your action skill on them, because we have so much healing with Sustainment anyway. So that is our entire talent build. So for the weapons, the weapon we're using from the DLC is the Ion Laser. Now we do have quite a bit to talk about this. My most recent video was going over this weapon, and that there is pretty much a glitch with this weapon, and actually a glitch and a bug that negatively affects the weapon as well. So this weapon is just a channeled laser beam. Now channeling the laser beam for longer and longer fires projectiles like that when you either reload or stop firing, and it's 1 to 6 projectiles that do a ridiculous amount of damage. So if we do just a bunch of projectiles here, that was 6, that was around 100k damage from that. Doing 10 ammo, these weapons actually consume ammo really slowly, but using around 10 ammo with it will do the 6 projectiles, so the most amount of damage. Now for the glitch that you can do, and this is the same reason that it's pretty much breaking the weapon and giving it a negative effect. So just normally using this, I found out that sometimes after letting go, so your projectiles fire off, and then just starting to shoot again, if you do it too quickly, it actually won't do the projectiles again like that right there. It should have fired more projectiles when letting off. And that just happens if you use the glitch part or not. And that really affects your damage, because then you have to let off for a second or do something else for a second to pretty much reset it, to then restart shooting so you can get your extra projectiles, because that's a lot of your single target damage. The damage is massive when these projectiles come out. So the actual glitch is that when you're firing and when you go to let off, if you just tap the fire button right after you let off, you can actually fire multiple waves of the basically extra projectiles that you can fire. As you can see here, you could fire, I think that was 4 right there. You could fire multiple waves of them, and however many projectiles you're going to shoot in the first place, you'll fire multiple waves of that. So if I'm letting go to 6 projectiles, I can then fire multiple waves of that and do a ridiculous amount of damage. I am using this in the footage. I would recommend using this with this, because it does have a bug on the weapon as well. Even if you're not fully utilizing the glitch for the extra damage, it's something that you can't really avoid. You'll do it randomly sometimes anyway, and the gun will randomly break and not shoot at the projectiles like it's supposed to sometimes. So I'd recommend just using that. I'm not certain if this is something that would fix. It seems something that's slightly minor, even though it does a ton of damage. And I doubt they're probably going to end up fixing this, so I would just say just get used to using it in that way. So past that, this weapon is a random drop from the DLC, or it's from one of the rare enemies. I can't remember its name right now. That rare enemy has a higher chance to drop it. It can come in every single element. It's a Maliwan weapon, so they all come on 2 elements, and they're just a really good overall weapon. Also, the only anointed that affects me at all is if I'm using a radiation or electric one right here that does bonus crowd damage, but I don't have any like crazy anointeds on any of mine. So they're really strong without even good anointeds. And past that, what we're using, just a grenade and a shield again with whatever elements you are, or that are good against the targets you're fighting. So say if you're fighting something with no shields or armor, you can do incinerator on a shield, cryo on a grenade. Don't stack the same element on both of these or one won't work. And that's pretty much it, because we also get these up pretty much 100% of the time, because we are using phase grasp. So we could just phase grasp the ground, and then we have those up for 10 seconds, and you can just have it up forever, which is a massive damage increase. That's something that's really, really good with Amara right now, is that you could just always use phase grasp and always have those 2 anointeds up for pretty much just 100% plus damage increase. Like I said, Spiritual Driver, super strong. This thing makes pretty much every build with Amara somewhat decent. It's such a strong class mod, probably still the strongest in the game. So definitely want to use this. Weapon charge speed is good, because that makes the weapon initial charge go faster. I'm not sure. I don't think it actually makes the damage ticks go faster, but it might slightly make the ticks of the damage go faster, but I don't really think so. It's mainly just to charge up the weapon faster on the initial charge, which is really good because you're stopping firing to let the projectiles out, so then you have to recharge it up. So having that extra charge speed is really good. And for our artifact, elemental predictor, again, because this goes with the spiritual driver, so you always have that 90% increased damage. I have Victory Rush on mine, which is probably one of the best for mobbing. It's a really good legendary effect. Then the rolls, mainly this one, magazine size helps because you don't have to reload as much, and then area of effect damage should affect the damage of the projectiles. It won't affect the beam damage, but when you let go and do the projectiles, those are explosive effects, so their area effect damage will increase that. So that's a pretty good damage increase. Now that's pretty much the entire build. This is a really cool weapon, and I definitely wanted to put this into a build because it's a really unique weapon. It does feel pretty cool when using it. It's pretty similar to the laser sploder in that when you're firing the beam, even if you go off the target a little bit, it doesn't really do it that much to the target dummy, but if you go off the target, you'll see the beam actually curve to kind of hit targets and help you hit targets a little bit easier. So it's a very easy weapon to use, and it's a pretty fun weapon, pretty unique. So, you know, something new to use in your builds when you're farming. Changing up a little bit definitely helps with, you know, kind of some of the tedium of just grinding stuff out to try to get some new gear. So that's the entire build. Subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this build. If you guys have any questions about where to get any of these items, how the build works, anything like that, leave it in the comments. I'll try to reply to everybody. And thanks for watching.
Win a prize. So much power. Child's play. Always useful. Somebody shoot this one. Ready to unleash this power. Eyes up, got a target. Love an extra. You're gonna die, Hunter. Not today. Full energized.